Alright, so here we have Mud's Women, one of the oldest episodes of Star Trek, and one so old that Gene Roddenberry himself came up with the plot concept and actually, wrote out the basic story concept, which was then made into a teleplay by someone else. Which, yeah, back in the old day, he did that quite a lot. Anyways, what is the actual plot hook here? The plot hook for this episode is as simple as the Enterprise is doing something analogous to border security. They are patrolling space looking for illegal activities, and they find a Class J cargo ship that is acting suspicious and not doing what a normal cargo ship should do. So, what's a Class J? A Class J cargo ship is a mass-produced model that is not normally used by Starfleet, although Starfleet does own at least one that it uses as a cadet training vessel. For the most part, though, they are small vessels. I mean, it has a crew complement of 1 to 8. That says a lot about just how few or how small it is. These are probably actual windows on the side of the ship and not just colored panels. Like, does it have more than 2 decks? I don't know. Maybe not. Anyway, very small vessel, and Mud is actually flying it by himself. As for what it does, they fly into an asteroid field with a high Shiller rating, which Shiller rating is not explained. Presumably it has something to do with how dangerous an asteroid field is to navigation, but we don't actually know. Leo Walsh. Leo Walsh is the identity of this Class J cargo ship's legitimate owner, which Mud claims is dead. We don't actually have confirmation. We know Mud has been lying about a whole lot of things. One potential interpretation is that Mud killed the guy and stole his ship. That's one possible interpretation of it. At the end of the episode, Mud acts like he believes that he is going to be sent to prison for the remainder of his natural life if Kirk hands him over to Federation authorities. That could be why. Again, we kind of sort of don't know all of that. It doesn't go into a lot of detail about how he got the ship, just that he did. Anyways, Harcourt Fenton Mud is someone who is a villain in several episodes, although he's not the kind of villain that you get into a firefight with. He's the kind of villain who you figure out what he's doing before he manages to complete whatever stupid theme or scheme that he has been cooking up since the last time you fought him. So, what's this scheme? This time it is providing wives to minors who don't have the opportunity to find women on whatever desolate backwater planet they're living on. I'll get back to the location later, but these 3 women, each of them were from some planet where they didn't have good opportunities to find someone to get married to, and all of them were women who wanted to get married and raise a family. So Mud gave them an opportunity. What do we know about them? Well, Eve McHuron, we know, was from the planet Boots 3. We don't really know anything about her backstory at all, just that she's someone that Mud found. Ruth Bonaventure, we have the idea that she's from a pelagic planet, That's about it. Yeah. They're from places that are seemingly minor backwater worlds, and thus they were living on small colonies that just didn't have opportunities to find people to get married to. So they decided to move to a different backwater colonies that did have people that they could get married to. Okay, sure, whatever. Anyways, so now for the main MacGuffin. The primary MacGuffin in this episode is a thing called the Venus drug. Is it real? In universe, we don't know. Which is actually one of the best parts of the episode. Yeah, in universe, we don't know if it's real. The script suggests that the pills that Mud gave the women, at least, the first time, were in fact something special, but we don't know what they did. We know that they had an effect on the women that when the effect ended, they felt that the effect had ended, and it gave them some sort of like a coming down, like they were on. They felt that the effect had ended. The exact specifics of this are uncertain because, as it gets demonstrated later in the episode, the majority of whatever the heck was going on with them the first time was psychological. They were behaving like, alluring, amazingly beautiful women, and that behavior caused people to perceive them differently. Um, we do know that the drug did actually do something, and also the idea that there is a Venus drug is something that was in universe, something that had an idea that had floated around the galaxy prior to this episode. It's like the idea of the Venus drug is something that people are like, oh yeah, I've heard of that. It's a myth or something, you know. Anyways, so whether or not the drug actually makes them more beautiful is unclear. They were on something. It's entirely possible that he gave them something that just made them more confident and outgoing, and was actually not what he claimed it was. Because like some sort of like a mild upper that makes them, more perky and alert and active or something. Again, we don't know, because one of the major plot points is that no one on the crew of the Enterprise got a chance to actually examine and test one of the pills that Mud gave them to find out what it was. And later in the episode, they do the whole thing where someone creates a placebo that looks enough like it that one of them takes it and believes it's the real thing and starts acting like it was the real thing. And suddenly she, looks more beautiful. Even though it was a placebo. Yeah. Yeah, stuff to think about there. Anyways, so where were they supposed to go? The women were supposed to go to Ophiuchus III. This is literally all we know about Ophiuchus III because of the fact that no one in any episode of Star Trek has ever actually gone to Ophiuchus III. They've talked about the fact that it exists. Also, Mudd was supposedly going to get paid by the people at Ophiuchus III to bring them women that they could have as their wives. I don't know that anyone ever explained how much he was supposed to get paid because, stuff and reasons, but yeah, that was his reason for doing all this stuff. And like, how much money did Mud actually sink into this? I don't know. But anyway, so where did they actually go? The actual place that they went is Rigel 12, which in my video about the Rigel system, I talked about how much of a tiny backwater mining colony this really is. It is really, really small. Like, you look at this picture and you see like 2 buildings. Okay, there's probably more than just 2 buildings on the entire planet, but there's not much. And that explains why the people who are doing the work on this planet need to have women brought to their planet from outside the planet. The local population is just too low for them to actually have anyone that they can marry. So, makes sense. However, this gets us to the side plot of the episode. The side plot of this episode is that we have starships that are badly damaged and needs raw materials to effect repairs. Yeah, notice how the Enterprise engines look like they're turned off. Yeah. Mud's ship gets damaged trying to escape the Enterprise and flying into the asteroid field because he'd been hot wiring the ship, and he's apparently not a skilled engineer. Whatever the heck he did to the ship made it so that by the time he left the ship, it was structurally compromised. I don't remember if it got destroyed or not. I think they just left it adrift in the asteroid field. Anyway, though, the Enterprise had to actually pick up spare parts here. The main thing that happened here, though, is negotiating with the people in the lithium mining colony for Ben Childress and 2 of his partners to have the 3 women become part of the colony as their wives, which kind of sort of does happen. So that part of the plot gets resolved successfully. The bit about repairing stuff, though, did actually go a long way toward distracting the audience so that they're not fully focused on the whole Mud's women thing and the title. That is actually an interesting thing, though, is that the title of the episode being Mud's Women gives you the reason to pay more attention to the women than if it didn't have that title. So the episode is kind of spoiling its own suspense by telling you what part of the episode is the A plot and which part is the B plot that's just kind of there for filler. Interesting way of setting it up, and I'm not sure if the people who wrote the script actually paid attention to that. But hey, that's something that you as a person using this in a TTRPG should think about is, are you going to make it obvious that the women are the important part, or are you just going to let the players ignore that and focus on the damage to the ship and finding a way to fix that? Because it's entirely possible that players would just like skip with the whole like main plot and focus on the secondary plot and just like not bother with that unless you do something to kind of sort of force it. At any rate, though, Rigel 12 is a place that a lot of people live on after this episode. Yeah, apparently was said to have a much higher population in a later episode, but not in this one. Anyway, see you guys later.